Music reading difficulties.
Hi, welcome to another edition of the Practice Revolution. So far, we've talked about the myth of minutes. We've talked about practice versus rehearsal. We talked about a couple practice flaws. One was called chopping wood with a spoon, and another was called polishing shiny objects. And today, I'd like to talk to you about one of the reasons that we think students don't practice. Oftentimes when students don't practice, we say they're lazy or they're just not dedicated or something like that. And actually, that's not true at all. Students are very rational people, just like anybody else. Although I found that most teenagers don't make a pros and cons list about practicing, they do have sort of a subconscious cost versus benefit analysis that they go through when they're deciding to practice. They decide, is the time I'm about to spend worth it at all? Or will I not get anything from this practice? And that's a very powerful motivator in deciding whether or not they're going to practice. The ability to read music affects this decision making most of all. And there are two kinds of students that struggle with reading music. One, there are some students who just have reading difficulties, and we certainly understand that. And the other kind are students who normally read well, but when it comes to reading music, some of the comprehension or rhythm counting or ledger lines or applying key signatures and accidentals can be a little bit confusing. And we certainly understand that side of it also. So imagine two kinds of students. First, there's a student who reads music really well. They sit down and they think in their cost-benefit, subconscious analysis. They think, if I spend a little time working on this, after I get done with that, I'll have all of page one mastered, and I'm going to do really well at the concert or at the solo and ensemble festival, and everything's going to be great. And then there's another student, and that student doesn't read very well, and so they think, if I sit down to practice, well, maybe by the time I get done, I might be able to barely stumble through the first line. We wrongly assume that those students are lazy or not dedicated. That's not it at all. They're just frustrated with the amount they accomplish during the time that they practice. So what should you do if you're not that good at reading music? First of all, spend plenty of time doing things that don't require complex music reading. There's a lot of things you could do. You could work on your tone, you could work on articulation or getting the notes to come out cleanly. You could work on even slurs or rhythms and stuff like that. You could even work on memorizing a piece. And oftentimes students who don't read music have music memorization as a strength anyway. So go for that. And then after you get done practicing things that don't require a lot of music reading, go back to an easier level of music reading. Maybe book 2 from your middle school or something like that you can focus on, and you can just work on mastering your reading at that level. Parents, there's no point in pestering these students about laziness or dedication. That's not it at all. What we need to do is we need to tilt the balance from bothering them about spending a lot of time practicing and refocus those efforts toward getting better at individual elements of music that don't require music reading and teaching them to read, which we definitely want for them in music and in life in general. So in this episode of the Practice Revolution, we talked about one of the reasons that students oftentimes don't practice, and that is difficulty with reading music. We dispelled the myth that it's about laziness or lack of dedication. That's definitely not it. But we want to focus on those things that students can practice while they work on the music reading skills that they need to get better. Thanks for watching this time, and remember, don't just practice hard, practice smart.